I have two favorite excerpts in the Vincent Boys. One is from Ashton's point of view, and one is from Bo's. I have a lot of favorite excerpts of the Vincent Boys, but these two I think will give you a feel of what the story's about and how both Bo and Ashton fall into the mess that they do. I'm not going to let you drive. You're slurring your words. You don't need to drive. He opened his mouth to argue, then mumbled something that sounded like a curse word before slamming the door and walking around to the front of the truck to get in on the passenger side. He didn't say anything, and I didn't glance over at him. Without Sawyer around, Bo made me nervous. I'm tired of arguing with females tonight. That's the only reason I'm letting you drive, he grumbled, without a slur this time. It wasn't surprising that he could control the slurring. The boy had been getting drunk before most of the kids our age had tasted their first beer. When a guy had a face like Bo's, older girls took notice. He had been snagging invites to the field parties way before the rest of us. I managed to shrug. You wouldn't have to argue with me if you didn't drink so much. He let out a hard laugh. You really are the perfect little preacher's daughter, aren't you, Ash? Once upon a time, you were a hell of a lot more fun. Before you started sucking face with Sawyer, we used to have some good times together. He was watching me for a reaction. Knowing his eyes were directed at me made it hard to focus on driving. You're my partner in crime, Ash. Sawyer was the good guy, but the two of us, we were the troublemakers. What happened? How do I respond to that? No one knows the girl who used to steal bubblegum from the quick stop or abduct the paper boy to tie him up so we could take all his papers and dip them in blue paint before leaving them on the front doorsteps of houses. No one knew the girl who snuck out of her house at 2 a.m. to go toilet paper yards and throw water balloons at cars from behind the bushes. No one would even believe I'd done all those things if I told them. No one but Bo. I grew up, I finally replied. You completely changed, Ash. We were kids, Bo. Yes, you and I got into trouble, and Sawyer got us out of trouble, but we were just kids. I'm different now. For a moment, he didn't respond. He shifted in his seat, and I knew his gaze was no longer focused on me. We'd never had this conversation before. Even if it was uncomfortable, I knew it was way overdue. Sawyer always stood in the way of Bo and me mending our fences that had crumbled, and I never knew why. One day he was Bo, my best friend. The next day, he was just my boyfriend's cousin. I missed that girl, you know. She was exciting. She knew how to have fun. This perfect little preacher's daughter who took her place sucks. Now, that's Ashton's point of view. I have one later on in the book that is at Bo's. After breakfast, I convinced Ashton to help me wash my truck. I figured any reason to get her outside and in public so that I wouldn't be tempted to haul her back to my bedroom was a good idea. Stop it, Bo, Ashton squealed as she ran around the side of the truck and ran away from the water hose I'd aimed her way. But you've got soap all over your arms. I'm just trying to wash it off, I replied. Her laughter made something inside me tighten, and I forced myself not to think about it. Sure you were, by soaking me. I'd prefer the soapy arms, thank you very much. Oh, come on, Ash, I was just trying to help. I promise I won't do it again. Besides, you aren't even wearing a white shirt. I've got no reason to hose you down. She walked cautiously around the front of the truck. She didn't trust me. I dropped the hose and held up both my hands. See, I promise, I assured her. She tilted her head to one side and bit her bottom lip. Okay. I watched her slowly approach the bucket of soapy water to retrieve the sponge she had dropped. Before I could respond, she stood up and hurled a large wet soapy sponge at my face and squealed in delight, before turning and running back to the other side of the truck. You've asked for it now, I yelled at her and took off around the opposite side of the truck to catch her. I'm sorry, she screamed through her laughter. Too late for apologies, darling. I'm taking you down. Bo, I promise I won't. Please don't throw it at me. She ducked behind the back of the truck. Well, isn't this sweet? Nicole's voice caught me off guard. I stopped chasing Ashton and tossed the wet sponge into the bucket before turning around to find Nicole leaning up against her mother's candy apple red Camaro.